It was sometime around 2 in the morning on a Thursday when I was driving home from a double shift. I work at a distribution warehouse about 40 minutes outside of town, and the route home takes me down a long stretch of state highway that cuts through nothing but farmland and tree lines on both sides. No lights, no houses, no other cars, usually. I liked it that way. It was my wind-down time. Just me, the road, and whatever was playing through my speakers. I was about 15 minutes into the drive when my headlights caught something on the shoulder ahead of me. It looked like a person. As I got closer, I could see it was a woman, standing completely still at the edge of the road, facing away from traffic, not moving at all. No car nearby. No flashlight. Nothing. Just standing there in the dark with her back to the road at 2 in the morning. I slowed way down as I passed her and looked in my mirror. She hadn't moved an inch, didn't turn around, didn't react to my headlights at all. Just stood there, perfectly still, staring into the tree line. I kept driving. Something about the way she was standing, that total stillness, didn't sit right with me. I made it maybe a mile down the road before I couldn't stop thinking about it. What if she was in shock? What if someone had hurt her and left her there? I turned around. I drove back slowly with my windows up and doors locked, which in hindsight I'm glad I did. When I pulled up behind her and hit my hazards, she still didn't move. I rolled my window down a few inches and called out to ask if she was okay. That's when she turned around, slowly, and she was smiling. Not a scared smile, not a relieved smile. A wide, completely flat smile that didn't reach her eyes at all. She started walking toward my car at a normal pace, not running, just walking, still smiling, and she said she needed a ride. I told her I'd call her a cab, and she said she didn't need a cab. She needed to get in my car. She put her hand on the door handle and I drove away. I watched her in my mirror getting smaller and smaller as I picked up speed. She stood in the middle of the road watching me go. She didn't move to the shoulder. She just stood in the center of my lane watching me drive away. I don't know who she was or why she was out there or what would have happened if I'd unlocked that door. I just know I didn't sleep well for a long time after that. This happened to me a few years ago on a road trip I was taking alone. I was driving through rural Kentucky on my way down south, and I stopped at a gas station around 11 at night to fill up and grab some food. It was one of those older stations, not a chain, just a small local place with 2 pumps and a little convenience store attached to it. There was one other car in the lot. I was inside for maybe 5 minutes getting a drink and some chips. When I came back out, I noticed the car that had been parked there was now pulled up directly behind my car, blocking it in. I didn't see anyone near it. I assumed someone had parked badly and was inside, so I loaded my stuff and waited a minute. Nobody came out. I went back inside and told the clerk someone was blocking me. She looked out the window and her face did something I didn't like. She looked worried. She told me she hadn't seen anyone pull up and that car hadn't been there when she last looked. I asked if I could wait inside for a few minutes and she said yes. I stood near the counter and watched the lot through the window. After about 10 minutes, nothing had changed. No one had come out of anywhere. No one was visible. The car just sat there. I asked the clerk to call the police and she did. While we waited, I looked more carefully at the car blocking me. It was a dark sedan, and from what I could see through the window, there was a figure in the driver's seat, just sitting there, not moving. The police arrived about 12 minutes later. When the officer approached the vehicle, he told me to stay inside. I watched through the glass as he knocked on the window, waited, then shone his flashlight inside. He stepped back, hand on his radio, and called something in. Then a second car showed up. They eventually got the driver out. I was told later by one of the officers that the man had several lengths of rope in the back seat, along with other things he wouldn't specify. The man had no connection to me, no reason to have targeted me that I could identify. He had just seen me pull in alone and made a decision. The officer told me I was lucky I went back inside. He said most people would have just asked the person to move and that would have been the end of it. I want to be clear that I am not someone who scares just like that. I drove trucks for 11 years. Night routes, long hauls, all of it. I've seen plenty of strange things on the road, but nothing came close to what happened to me on an overnight run through New Mexico a few years back. I was on a long, empty stretch of interstate, no exits for miles, when my CB radio clicked on. That alone isn't unusual, a lot of traffic on those channels. But it was just silence at first. Then a voice, calm and quiet, said my truck number. The exact number painted on the side of my cab. I figured it was another driver who had seen me on the road, maybe someone I knew from the circuit, so I responded and asked who was calling. Silence. Then a minute later the same voice said my number again, followed by the exit I had passed about 40 miles back. I pulled into the next way station and sat there with the engine running. The voice came back and said the name of the town I lived in. I had never spoken to this person before. I had no idea how they knew those things. I reported it to my dispatcher, who said to stay at the way station and not to drive until someone could verify there was no one following me. Another driver I knew came through about an hour later, and we drove in convoy for the rest of the route. Nobody was ever identified. I swapped that CB unit out immediately and started varying my routes. Whoever it was, they had clearly been watching me for long enough to know details they had no business knowing. To this day, I keep my truck numbers on the cab as small and as faded as I can get away with. I was 19 years old the night this happened, and I still think about it pretty regularly. I was driving home from my girlfriend's place late on a Friday night, maybe midnight, on a back road I had driven 1,000 times. It was the kind of road where you know every turn without thinking about it. So I was relaxed, not paying as much attention as I probably should have been. I noticed headlights behind me and didn't think anything of it at first. But after a few minutes I realized the car behind me was matching every single turn one made. Left, they turned left. Right, they turned right. I thought maybe they just lived out this way too. It wasn't impossible. But then I made a turn I knew was a dead end, a road that goes back to an old private property, just to test it. They followed me. I had to do a 3-point turn, and when I came back out, the car was just sitting there at the entrance of the dead end, with its headlights on, blocking the road. I stopped because I had no choice. We sat there facing each other for what felt like forever. Then they put the car in reverse and backed up enough for me to pass. I drove past them quickly without looking and got back on the main road and went straight to a gas station in town. I parked under the lights and went inside and stayed there for half an hour. I never saw the car again. I still don't fully understand what that was. If they had bad intentions, they had me. That dead end should have been the end of it, but for whatever reason they let me go. Sometimes I think about what the variable was, what I did or didn't do that made them back off. I've never been able to figure it out, and I'm not sure I want to know. If these stories kept you up, you're not alone. Drop a comment below with the creepiest thing that's ever happened to you on the road. And if you want more nights like this, subscribe to Fear Assembly and hit that notification bell so you never miss an upload. Share this with someone who thinks nothing ever happens on empty roads at night. Like the video if it got to you. I'll see you in the dark.